Hello, snappers and snapettes. Today we're in Marvel Snap and we're taking a look at the new season pass and the new cards that are going to be dropping throughout the rest of March. In case you haven't noticed, a season ended recently, which was the MODOK season, and we are now in a new season called the Days of Future Past. Gotta tell you, Days of Future Past had always been one of my more favorite storylines. I really enjoyed the movie, even if, of course, it did play with some of the original events. I can definitely recall going back in time for Days of Future Past, back to the original X-Men show, when everybody thought Gambit was the bad guy, and Wolverine was pretty sure that Gambit was up to no good. And there is also a very unknown Days of Future Past game that heavily features Kitty Pryde. I'm trying to remember if it's a mobile game or not. Let me take a look at something real quick here. Future Past game. I'll know it when I see it. I don't think it was an arcade game. Yeah, it's maybe it's it's this one. Yes, Future Past on Android. It was this game. I had this game on a tablet, and I believe this was also. It used this art, but it was slightly reworked. I think it had Kitty Pryde there because in the game, Kitty Pryde was one of the more major factors in it. So anyway. Let's go ahead and get into it. So the Battle Pass will give you Nimrod, and from there we will get some mystery variants, a new title, The Apocalypse Sucks. I think I would actually, yeah, I think I'm going to switch to that one. You have gold, you've got the Sentinel avatar, you've got 30 Sentinel boosters, 15 random boosters. You've got a Sentinel variant that does look pretty cool. However, it makes it look really actually makes them look very big, but Sentinels are big, but that is a towering Sentinel over there. Sentinel boosters, mystery variant, Sentinel card back. Sentinels need love too. That one's funny. I don't know about you guys, but when I think about Sentinels in Marvel related games or X-Men games, the one that I always think of most is the Sentinel in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, especially at the arcade. Rocket Punch, Rocket Barrage. That's always what I get in my head when I think of Sentinel when it comes to Marvel games. However, I also do think he's pretty cool in Marvel Future Fight. I do like piloting Sentinel in that game. He's kind of fun. All right, so we've got a Wolverine avatar, 30 Wolverine boosters, a Wolverine variant, credits, Wolverine boosters, 25 boosters, mystery variant, and eventually here at 42 you get 60 Nimrod boosters, another title, Wolverine is my spirit animal, a Dan Hip Nimrod variant, and then another card back, an X-Men card back over there, and then finally at 50 the Nimrod variant. Now this one, I gotta say, is one of the few Dan Hips that I like, and I know that might be slightly controversial, but there are some Dan Hip variants that I think are just not really worth looking at. There are definitely some pixels that I hate, and I know pixels get a lot of hate. There are some pixels that I like. There are some I absolutely despise, like the Korg one. The let's see here, some of the hip ones that I absolutely dislike. Yeah, let me see. There was like, oh yeah, this one. I don't like this Medusa one at all. Really don't. I'm still using the original one because I don't like that Medusa. Let's see. That Mystique one's pretty cool, but I just recently split my Mystique, so I'm sticking with that one. This Lockjaw one's okay. It's I don't particularly hate it. It's funny. This one gets an okay from me because I find it to be funny, cute. But yeah, that's chibi. Let's see. I always call this one the Ichigo Kurosaki. It really does make me think of Ichigo from Bleach whenever I see that Mr. Negative. Wow, really? Was it the Lockjaw one that I like? I could swear there was one Dan Hip that I thought was pretty decent. Yeah, maybe it was the Lockjaw one. I can't find it right now, but for the most part, I'm actually not that crazy about the Hip variants. Yeah, like this Hawkeye, I hate this Hawkeye. It's just it's far too goofy, and I know that's kind of the point, but still, sometimes even when you know it's supposed to be goofy, you just can't get past the goofy. So that is what the Battle Pass looks like. And for those who haven't seen it yet, and I'm sure you will soon, what Nimrod does is when he is destroyed, add a copy to each other location. I believe if you MODOK him, he goes to all three. However, one of the things that I wonder about is what would he be like in a let's see, where do I a Zola deck, and copies of it to other locations. Yeah, I'm kind of curious whose ability takes precedence on this one, because we all know that if you Arnim Zola a card, it disappears from the lane that Zola is in, and it goes to the other lanes. However, when you look at the passive for Nimrod, when this is destroyed, add a copy to each other location. It's going to be an interesting interaction. I'd like to see what happens over there. I mean, if you Carnage him or Venom him, all of that stuff makes sense. I kind of know how that one's going to go. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if you Zola him. Now, if you MODOK him from your deck, I do believe he goes to all three locations, and I think that might be one of the better ways of doing it. At my store today, it looks like we've got some variants for Black Bolt, America Chavez, Hobgoblin, Pixel Electro, Sports Nick Fury, Weapon X variant for Warpath. I have Bast pinned in my store for now. My fast upgrades look to be Mr. Fantastic, Ichigo, Mr. Negative, which I will actually do. And who do I pull from my collector's reserve? Collector tokens. All right, not bad. And Hood. My Hood recently split, so I'm going to do this one too. I know doing it this way from the store is kind of a scam. However, like, my credits have been maxed out for a little while, so I'm kind of running them down a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other cards for March. So we have Nimrod, which we talked about. We're also going to get Kitty Pryde. You can return this to your hand to gain +2 power. I wonder if it's just going to be a new mechanic that lets you play her and then the next turn drag her back. She could be very interesting to start off after being negatived by Mr. Negative. Because instead of a 1-0, she'd be a 0-1, drop her back to your hand. Then she comes back as a 0-3. Might be good for Lockjaw. Might be good for Jane Thor. I'm really curious as to what happens if she is returned to your hand and brought back by something else like Beast or Lockjaw or Falcon, something like that. It'd be interesting to see if you don't manually do it by her ability, does she still get the benefits? Up next, we have Negasonic Teenage Warhead. After any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. So it's sort of like a lane blocker, but it's a lane blocker that you could throw something against and then get rid of it. This may be something good to always have like a cheap Wasp in your deck. Or a 0 card like Mjolnir would be pretty interesting against Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Running Thor and a Mjolnir might work out because you drop Thor, Mjolnir goes in your hand, you would throw it on the battlefield, normally it clogs up the lane, but you use Mjolnir to buff Thor, it gets destroyed, she goes away, Mjolnir goes away. Yeah, could be good. Or throwing the Hood against Negasonic Teenage Warhead. You get the demon, and then you get that negative effect of having the Hood out there off the field. Interesting. Very interesting deck. Ooh. I wonder what would happen with Titania and her. So you could drop her turn 6, and she'd give you a little bit of power in the lane, especially if you flip second, because then it's after any card is played here, the card would have to come after her. So if you choked up a lane beforehand, if you dropped it in a 4-4 lane, you could get some stability out of her, but it's also a really good blocker if you see somebody starting to build something into a lane, especially if it's one you don't care about. Drop it in there, and then you make that person really think about what they're doing. She's good in the late game if they don't have something they could sacrifice to Negasonic. Get her out of there. Up next, we have Master Mold, who is in Marvel Future Fight as a big group boss. On reveal, add 2 Sentinels to your opponent's hand. Interesting if you could choke somebody's hand out so that they can't draw. Maybe good with Black Widow, maybe good with Darkhawk, I guess. Darkhawk, Black Widow, choke somebody's hand out so they get maxed out, they can't draw. Just Korg would be another good one. Not Debris, because Debris puts it on the field. Korg could be pretty good. Black Widow could be pretty good. Darkhawk could be good. Oh, I hate when that happens. There we go. Shuffle a rock into your opponent's deck. It goes into the deck, not the hand. But yeah, Debris on the field. It's got some interesting synergy, and it's cheap enough that it works out. But boy, it could be really risky if you throw that on somebody who is running a big hand deck. Could play right into them. And then finally we have the Living Tribunal. This is when people know about powerful entities in Marvel, you could definitely see when people who are real big fans of the Marvel Universe and know what powerful cards are, the Living Tribunal almost always comes up. And it's really nice to see a Marvel game picking up some characters that I think are very hidden fan favorites, like Shadow King. I mean, the Legion show really showed that Shadow King is worth looking at. And here we've got Living Tribunal. I don't know Infinaut particularly well, but people like the Beyonder. We've got Death in Marvel Snap and everything. So At the end of the game, split your total power evenly among all locations. I believe this has been leaked for a long time. This description sounds familiar. I think he could work particularly well in decks that maybe get Death out really, really cheap because she's a 12. Kind of hard to get to work with Infinaut unless Infinaut gets waived or maybe lockjawed onto the field. Giganto is also pretty solid for this. I think you have not Crossbones. I think it could potentially work well with a Luke Cage, Typhoid Mary. I mean, dropping a 10 in the 4 slot is really good. Obviously, Iron Man. Maybe have... If you could go... Iron Man would be tough with this, but Typhoid Mary, Taskmaster, the Typhoid Mary, and now you have 2 10s out there. Living Tribunal, that not bad. Crossbones is also pretty strong, but what you could do is an Omega Red, potentially a Warpath, like juke somebody out, try to go for the empty lane, and then have a Warpath out there, and then, you know, really jack up a lane. People often do it with Venom, I believe, and then just Living Tribunal spreading that out. I mean, any of the times that you see, I'll show you over in the Marvel Snap group, whenever people post those like ridiculous Arnim Zola Black Panther combos and everything, Living Tribunal, I think, could potentially just be a really gigantic win button if you set him up right. Taskmaster Nimrod, that's kind of interesting over there. Let's see if I see any of the big hitters here. If you claw a lane so that it gets that +5 and you smooth that out over things, it's going to be really, really scary. Here, 33, 0, and 0. This person would probably lose because you'd only be about 11. Yeah, you'd be 11 at all 3. That would not be a good one over there. Also, hey, you know what? That could be interesting with Void and Hobgoblin, though, in the future. If you think somebody's going to run a Living Tribunal deck and you void a Void over to the enemy with Viper, Sentry, and the Void, or you throw Goblins and Hobgoblins over the other side to weaken the overall amount. I want to find one of those ones with the really, really ridiculously high scores in a lane. There was one... See, the thing is, when you see a post sometimes on Facebook, it'll just drop it down super low. It's kind of a good example. This one might have gotten up there. Have done that one. Okay, here we go. 35, 57, 39, 522. This is perfect. This is exactly what I'm talking about. But this also maybe helps answer the question about Arnim and Nimrod. But this guy's saying he's 22-0 against Nimrod decks. This kind of Wong, Black Panther, Odin scenario over here and getting... Imagine taking that 522 divided by 3 and smoothing it out. I think I'm going to call it right now and say that that is potentially a card that is going to wind up getting a little bit of a nerf. It might be just too easy to, Elder Tribunal. It might be just too easy to Living Tribunal that kind of a deck. So I don't know. That one might have something crazy go on with it. Thor. So I'm going to play my Lockjaw deck to close out the video. You're certainly welcome to close it out now if you want, but it's one of my fun decks over here. I'm holding on to the Wasp before Lockjaw actually dropping. You know what? Thor into Lockjaw is a thing. Let's see if we get lucky over here. Infinaut's in my hand, so I might not get that lucky. Feeding a Widow's Bite to a Nidavellir, perhaps... Oh, God. You bastard. I think this... Well... Welp. I think we're in a bit of trouble. Nidavellir, I'm probably not going to be going for at all. Let's try... When you don't get Lockjaw, it always sucks. Oh, he got... Wow. Are you kidding? This is such bad luck. He grabbed my Jubilee and has a Jubilee. What are we going to do here? Let's try to do that. And I'm going to consider Nidavellir a loss. Hopefully Shuri's Lab is a win. This Lockjaw over here, though, could be really scary. Let's see what we get. Oh, that's bad news for him. Oh, no, never mind. Oh, let's see what I get. Close. Yeah, alright. That was a lot of bad luck over there. Feeding a Widow's Bite into a Nidavellir, and then him having a Jubilee and copying my Jubilee, and then me getting his Thor, but not getting a Lockjaw. Oh well, not much you could do there. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them all, and there you have Marvel Snap. Alright guys, this is Napalm Dawn signing off. Hope you enjoyed this Marvel Snap video.